What if I told you that the secret to manifesting anything is not in what you do when you're awake, but in how you sleep? There's a hidden doorway between your waking world and the infinite, and every night you pass through it unknowingly. But tonight you will awaken to it. Because if you sleep like this, everything changes. I remember the first time I tried it. I was living in a small room in New York, hardly enough to turn around in. I had a dream that felt more real than life itself. I saw myself walking through doors I never believed I could open, having conversations I never thought possible. But here's what shocked me. It didn't happen after the dream. It happened because of the way I fell asleep. I didn't beg, I didn't plead. I simply assumed. I lay in bed and imagined I was already living the life I wanted. I felt it, breathed it, surrendered to it. And night after night, something shifted. I began to wake up in a world that was rearranging itself to match the state I had entered in sleep. But that was the night I discovered sleep is not the end of your day, it is the beginning of your creation. Sleep is a sacred threshold. The moment before you drift into unconsciousness is the most potent opportunity to reshape your reality. If you fall asleep thinking of your current problems, you carry them into the subconscious realm where they multiply. But if you fall asleep in the feeling of your wish fulfilled, you plant a seed in fertile soil. The sleep state is not passive, it's creative. The way you sleep determines the way your life unfolds. You do not manifest what you want, you manifest what you assume. And there is no better time to assume than in that drowsy, soft state right before sleep. The law of assumption is active even when your body rests. Assume your desire as fulfilled. Let your mind play in the end scene. This is not a mental trick, it is a spiritual law. The subconscious never sleeps. It receives what you impress upon it. You don't need to figure out how it will happen, you only need to feel the end result as real. Before sleep, bring the scene into your mind, not as something you want, but as something that's already true. Do not say, I will be, for that delays it. Say inwardly, I am, I have, it is done. The feeling of the wish fulfilled is the signal you send to reality, and it does not return void. Most people try to manifest during the day, while surrounded by contradiction, chaos, and distraction. But the subconscious mind is most open when you're on the edge of sleep. This is the moment where the conscious mind is silent and imagination is unguarded. Visualize before sleep. Let the picture become vivid, textured, and natural. You are not pretending, you are entering. It is not enough to visualize. You must fall asleep in it. Your body lies on the bed, but your spirit walks in a world where the desire is already real. Fall asleep as the person who already has what they wanted, whether it's wealth, love, health, or success. Don't try to get it, be it. Enter that version of you and let that self carry you into the dream world. The subconscious will not question it. The world outside is a reflection of your inner world. What you imagine in sleep becomes the film strip for your waking life. Most ignore this because it feels too simple, but simplicity is divine. Use imagination not as a tool, but as the truth. You are not imagining about something, you are selecting a state of being. The dream is not random, it is the echo of your dominant assumption. Your current reality is the result of previous assumptions. But to change the pattern, you must cross the bridge. And sleep is that bridge. In sleep, resistance fades. There are no counter thoughts, no fear strong enough to interrupt. If you guide your last thoughts toward your goal, they carry power. Your body sleeps, but the subconscious acts. It builds, rearranges, and prepares. When you visualize, you place a seed, but when you sleep in it, you water it. Do not worry if you don't see instant results. The unseen is working. Keep watering the dream. Night after night, sleep in that end scene until it feels normal. And then, as surely as the dawn, life responds, not to your hopes, but to your inner certainty. Sleep is not a passive act. It is not the closing of a day. It is the opening of a world. In the silence between wakefulness and dreams lies a sacred space where creation is not only possible, it is inevitable. That moment, fragile and soft, just before the mind drifts into unconscious rest, is the gateway. And most pass through it unaware, taking with them the worries of the day, the burdens of the body, and the chaos of the outer world. But that gateway is not meant to be crossed unconsciously. It is the door to your reality. And once you understand how to enter it with awareness, you will change the world you wake into. The truth is, everything begins in the unseen. The outer world is merely the shadow of the inner. What you call real, what you call facts, are but echoes of prior states you have assumed and accepted, often without realizing it. The body may sleep, but consciousness remains active. And it is in that sleep state where the conscious mind gives way to the subconscious. The guard lowers, the gate opens, and what enters is not judged, not filtered, not questioned. It is accepted wholly and completely. So if you enter that sleep while feeling poverty, loneliness, lack, confusion, or rejection, you carry that seed into the soil of the subconscious, and by law it must produce after its own kind. But what if you reversed this? What if you prepared for sleep not by reviewing your disappointments, but by rehearsing your fulfillment? What if you used that sacred gateway not as an exit from a difficult day, but as an entrance into a greater world? That world, which you access not through effort but through surrender, responds not to what you say, but to what you are. And what you are in sleep becomes what you are in waking life. Because the bridge between these two worlds, the visible and the invisible, is crossed every single night. The only question is, who is crossing? It is not enough to know this with the intellect. Knowledge alone does not create. It is awareness fused with feeling that impresses upon the deep mind. You do not convince it by logic, you awaken it by experience. The gateway between dimensions, the moment before sleep, is the place where your being becomes pure cause. Not your words, not your thoughts alone, but your state of being. That state is what you enter the gate with. If you lay down and allow the outer world to dictate your inner world, then you are walking backward through the door. But if you lay down and determine what is true, not based on appearances, but based on desire, then you have stepped into your divine inheritance. You must begin to understand that every night you are invited to create. The invitation is gentle. It does not shout. It whispers. And most miss it because they are too distracted by the noise of the world. But the whisper is always there. It is the invitation to clothe yourself in a new assumption, not for the sake of pretending, but for the sake of becoming. For whatever you accept as true of yourself, you give life to. This is not a law you create. It is a law you recognize. And it is activated most purely at the threshold of sleep. Let this be the beginning of your transformation. Not tomorrow, not some other day, tonight. Tonight, when you lay your head upon the pillow, do not surrender to circumstance. Surrender to vision. Choose not the memories of what has been, but the memory of what is to be. Assume the tone, the emotion, the posture of the one who already is what they once desired to become. Enter that feeling as you would a warm bath. Let it surround you, hold you, soak into every fiber of your being. Do not argue with it. Do not analyze it. Feel it and let it feel natural. For when the feeling becomes natural, you have crossed the threshold in power. Sleep is the rehearsal space of reality, the invisible theater in which your soul performs the act that the world will soon echo. If you rehearse sorrow, you will perform sorrow. If you rehearse joy, you will perform joy. Not because the world listens to your words, but because the subconscious accepts your identity. And identity is not declared by voice, it is assumed in silence. Do not wait for evidence. That is the trap. The evidence will follow, because the world is not happening to you, it is happening from you. You are not the spectator of life, you are the source of it. And if you would change the script, you must first change the actor. Every night, you are cast anew. What part will you play tonight? Will you enter the sleep gateway as the rejected, the overlooked, the burdened, or will you enter it as the beloved, the successful, the whole? Only you decide. And the universe, impartial and faithful, will mirror back what you chose, not what you wanted, not what you begged for, but what you believed enough to become. Sleep, then, is the gateway between dimensions, and the you that walks through it is the you that will awaken, not just in the morning, but in life. You do not manifest what you want, you manifest what you assume to be true. And this assumption, once deeply embedded, becomes your experienced reality. Desire is only the spark, it is assumption that sets the fire. Many people lie in bed at night praying for things, pleading with the unseen, hoping that perhaps something outside of them will intervene and shift their world. But they remain in a state of longing, which is itself the confession of not having. And what you confess with your inner state is what is heard, not your words, not your emotions, not even your intentions, but your state. The law of assumption does not take sides. It does not say this is good, this is bad. It simply yields to the nature of the seed that is planted. If you go to bed rehearsing what is missing, you are planting lack. If you fall asleep in frustration, you are watering that emotion and giving it power to return. If your last thoughts are fears, doubts, or frustrations, they pass through the veil of consciousness, and the subconscious, being completely obedient, brings forth circumstances that match the blueprint you impressed. Now imagine instead that you fall asleep not as someone hoping for change, but as someone who is already changed. You lie down in your bed, and before the body slips into stillness, you assume a new posture, not physical, but spiritual. You occupy the state of being that would naturally arise if your desire were already fulfilled. You imagine what it would feel like to be secure, to be loved, to be chosen, to be successful. You enter the feeling not to beg for it, but to wear it. Like a garment, you slip it over your consciousness. And that is what you take with you into the sleep state. This is the most sacred moment of the entire day. The moment when you release control of the conscious mind and surrender to the deeper current of being. Most treat it carelessly. They fall asleep to the news, to social media, to the residue of their day. But the wise understand that this moment is the bridge to creation. The law of assumption while sleeping is a divine law, because it bypasses the noise of logic and impresses the image directly onto the subconscious, which is the creative power behind all manifestation. You do not have to work for what you desire in the outer world when you have assumed it completely within. That assumption, when carried into sleep, will begin to manifest itself through channels you never could have calculated. It may come in the form of a meeting, a shift in behavior, an opportunity, or even an inner knowing that guides you step by step. But it always begins invisibly, and it always begins within. So what does it mean to assume while sleeping? It is not merely about visualizing a picture, it is about identifying with the version of yourself that already has the thing you desire. It means you fall asleep as that version. If you seek financial freedom, you do not fall asleep worrying about your bills. You fall asleep in the confidence and ease of someone who knows the bills are already paid. You do not just imagine the money, you imagine the freedom it brings, the calm it gives, the clarity it offers. You feel the end result as natural, and that natural feeling becomes the instruction given to the subconscious mind. The mind does not create through strain, it creates through impression. And the state just before sleep is when impressions go deepest. The conscious mind begins to dissolve. You are neither fully awake nor fully asleep. And it is in this twilight zone that the creative work is done. If you can hold the feeling of the wish fulfilled in this moment, even if only for a few seconds, it will take root. The subconscious receives it like a command, not a request. And it begins immediately to shape the circumstances necessary to express that assumption. But this must be practiced. It is not a one-night affair. It is a new way of being. You must begin to treat sleep as ceremony. It is not simply rest. It is resurrection. Each night, you have the opportunity to lay down one identity and pick up another. Each night you can bury the old version of self and rise into a new one. Not through struggle, but through surrender to the unseen truth. The law of assumption is always active. The only question is, what are you assuming when it matters most? What are you carrying into sleep? You may say affirmations by day, but if you fall asleep in contradiction, the deeper law is following that nighttime state. So let your final inner statement each night be one of fulfillment. Let your last emotion be one of peace and gratitude, not for what will come, but for what already is. For the world responds not to your effort, but to your assumption. An assumption made before sleep is the most fertile seed of all. It does not grow because of how hard you wish. It grows because you assumed it to be. And that is enough. To manifest what you truly desire, you must first understand a crucial principle. Creation is finished. Everything you could ever ask for already exists in the unseen. You do not bring something into being by effort, nor do you manifest it by figuring out how it will come. You bring it into your experience by assuming the feeling of the fulfilled desire. The how is not your concern. The how belongs to the wisdom of the subconscious, the deeper creative power within. Your only task is to claim the state internally without doubt or hesitation and allow the unseen forces to orchestrate the path. The moment you begin to focus on the process, you step out of the state of the end and return to the state of incompletion. Many unknowingly delay their manifestation because they want to know each step, how the money will come, how the person will change, how the door will open. But to desire the end and then try to map the journey is to split your energy. It is to send one message consciously and another subconsciously. The subconscious does not respond to conflicting instructions. It responds to certainty. And the only certainty it knows is feeling. You must learn to dwell in the end, not as a theory, but as an experience. The end is a state, and all states are available now. You do not wait for a better time to enter a new state of being. You do not earn it or qualify for it. You choose it. And you enter it by feeling. That feeling is not about excitement or emotional intensity. It is about naturalness. When a thing feels normal, it is yours. The deeper mind accepts it because it no longer questions it. It recognizes the inner tone and shapes the outer world to reflect it. Feeling is the secret door through which all realities are entered. If you try to will a desire into being by effort, you are affirming that it does not yet exist. But if you rest in the mood of having it, you collapse all distance. You become the one who already has, already is, already lives the truth of what was once only longed for. The mind may not understand how this can be. It may protest. It may remind you of facts. But facts are not final. They are reflections of old assumptions. They are the visible record of invisible beliefs. Change the belief and the fact must change. The key is to avoid being lured into the mechanics of the manifestation. You are not the architect of the bridge. You are the occupant of the state. The one who feels himself already in possession of the thing does not care how it arrives. He is too absorbed in the joy of its reality. He is not waiting for the phone call, the opportunity, or the shift. He lives in the knowing that it is done, And because he lives in that knowing, the world bends to reflect it. This is why you must refuse the temptation to analyze or to seek signs. The mind wants evidence, but the soul only requires alignment. The moment you feel the thing to be true, you have altered the seed. The roots are already forming. The tree is already growing, even if no leaf has yet broken the surface. But if you dig up the soil each day to check its progress, you kill the life within. You must feel and then let go, not to abandon the desire, but to rest in its certainty. There is a spiritual intelligence operating beyond what the senses can perceive. It works not by your striving, but by your inner agreement. And the agreement is simple. It is so. When you say this inwardly, not with words, but with being, you have issued the command. You do not need to see the path, because the path will reveal itself as needed. You will be moved, nudged, led in ways so subtle and perfect that only later will you see the brilliance of the orchestration. You may find yourself in the right place at the right time, meeting the right person, hearing the right word. These things are not accidents. They are the physical echo of an invisible assumption. So tonight and every night, enter the feeling. Do not ask what you must do. Ask only, what would I feel if it were true? And dwell in that sensation. Would you walk lighter? Would you smile without knowing why? Would you speak differently, carry yourself differently, dream differently? Then become that now, feel it deeply and sleep in it. And know that the assumption you take to bed is the cause of the world you will rise to meet. You must train yourself to abandon process and become absorbed in presence. The present moment is the only place creation occurs. And in that moment, the assumption becomes real. It becomes fact in your world, not because you forced it, but because you became it. The world is not outside of you, it is you turned inside out. And the only change required is the change of state. The how will take care of itself. The feeling is the cause, the process is the shadow, and you are the light that casts it. The reason so many fail to manifest their desires is not because they lack belief or discipline, but because they engage the mind when it is most distracted during the day. The day is full of interruption. Your senses are bombarded with facts, contradictions, and appearances that often oppose your desire. You are surrounded by reminders of your current state, so deeply immersed in the sensory world that the inner world becomes faint. In that condition, imagination is weakened. It struggles to take hold when the conscious mind is actively identifying with the outer environment. But at night, just before sleep, everything changes. That sacred twilight between wakefulness and slumber is the true doorway to creation. In that moment, the veil is thin, the outer world recedes. The conscious mind loosens its grip, and the subconscious opens like fertile soil, ready to receive any seed planted in feeling. If you wait for that moment, if you deliberately hold your imagination until then, you are no longer struggling to maintain your vision. You are gently sinking into it. You are not imagining from conflict, you are imagining from stillness. And in stillness, all things are possible. The reason you must imagine before sleep is because the state just before slumber is uniquely powerful. The thoughts you dwell on as you cross the threshold into sleep are not judged or filtered. They bypass the gatekeeper of reason. They go directly into the subconscious, and the subconscious, being impersonal and obedient, begins to accept and reproduce the impression given to it. This is not theory, this is law. The last dominant mood you carry into sleep is the instruction given to the unseen. It does not matter if your day was filled with worry. What matters is what you take with you into the night. You must begin to treat imagination as sacred. It is not a toy. It is not fantasy. It is the very tool by which reality is shaped. The outer world is but the frozen music of your former imaginal acts. All that you see around you began first as an unseen state. Someone imagined it, perhaps knowingly, perhaps not, but the origin is always inner. So if you wish to change the world you wake to, begin with what you bring into your sleep. Daytime imagination often fails because it competes with facts. You imagine wealth, but your senses remind you of debt. You imagine love, but your surroundings echo loneliness. You try to create from a place of duality, one part desiring, one part denying. But at night, as your body grows still and the world dims, the competing voices grow quiet. You are more receptive. You are not fighting your own thoughts. You are floating within them. And in that floating, the images you hold become impressions. You are no longer imagining as effort. You are imagining as identity. So train yourself to hold your vision until the moment of sleep. Let it be the last thing you carry. Let it dominate your inner world until it feels like truth. And then let go, not in dismissal, but in surrender. Let go into the scene as one lets go into a dream. The more natural it feels, the more certain it becomes. And when you wake, though nothing may seem different, the seed has been planted. The wheel has turned. The unseen has begun to mold the scene. This is not a one-time ritual. It is a daily return to your creative center. Each night you are given a new chance to impress the deep mind. Each night you are invited to step into the role of creator. Do not waste that opportunity by reviewing your worries or replaying events. That is recreation in reverse. That is using your power to reinforce what already is. Instead, create anew. Invent a scene that implies your desire is already fulfilled. It need not be long. It need only be vivid. A short moment that captures the essence of having. Whether it be a conversation, a gesture, or a feeling. And then rest in it, like one who belongs to that world. You may not know the power you hold. You may have been taught to separate imagination from reality, but they are not separate, they are one. Imagination is the cause, reality is the effect. To imagine before sleep is to plant the cause when the ground is most fertile. To imagine during the day is to fight against the weeds of fact. Both can yield results, but one is struggle, the other is surrender. Do not fear repetition. Repetition is not failure, it is reinforcement. If the vision does not feel natural yet, keep returning to it. Not with effort, but with devotion. The more you dwell in it, the more it becomes your home. The mind does not reject what it has made familiar, and once familiar, the desire no longer feels like a hope. It feels like an inevitability. This is why you must save the most sacred vision for your most sacred hour. Imagine not when you are rushed, distracted, or doubting, but when the body is still and the door is open. Just before sleep, you are closest to your creative self. That is when you touch the eternal. That is when your imagination becomes the hand that shapes clay, and what you shape will become what you hold. Not because you forced it, but because you dared to feel it real. There is a secret that escapes most seekers, though it is hidden in plain sight. You must fall asleep in the wish fulfilled, not thinking of it, not hoping for it, not pleading with the unseen to grant it, but as if it were already true. This is the only way the subconscious mind, your creative power, accepts a new command. The outer man lays his body down, but the inner man must rise in a new state. If you fall asleep as the person you've always been, you continue the creation of the life you've always had. But if you fall asleep as the person who already possesses the desire, you shift the trajectory of your life entirely. Most people carry their day into their night. They fall asleep reflecting on what went wrong, what is missing, what they fear. And by doing so, they unconsciously impress those patterns deeper into the subconscious. The next day, life appears the same, not because it is destined to, but because the sleeper has remained unchanged. This cycle repeats until a deliberate choice is made to disrupt it. That disruption happens the moment you understand you are not required to sleep as the person you appeared to be all day. You can choose to assume a new identity, silently, inwardly, sacredly, as you drift into the deeper currents of being. The subconscious mind does not interpret or question, it accepts. It takes your dominant inner state at the time of sleep and begins at once to express it through people, events, and circumstances. If you sleep in doubt, the world becomes unstable. If you sleep in lack, the world becomes withholding. But if you sleep in fulfillment, the world becomes responsive and generous. So the real work is not done during waking hours, with endless effort and mental strain. The true transformation begins when you choose to let the fulfilled state carry you into unconsciousness. To do this, you must first know what it is you truly desire, not in vague terms, but in a feeling. You need not visualize every detail. The subconscious does not require blueprints. It responds to the essence of a thing. If you desire love, feel what it would be like to be loved, not just to have someone beside you, but to know deeply that you are cherished. If it is abundance, feel the ease, the relief, the calm confidence of financial security. Let that be your inner climate as you prepare for sleep. Lying in your bed, let the external world dissolve. You need not carry the facts of the day with you. Instead, carry the experience of having. Imagine the end result, not as a scene you watch, but as a life you live. Engage your senses. What would you hear, see, touch, or say if your desire were already a fact? Anchor yourself in that world and let the sensation become natural, because the subconscious accepts only what feels normal. That which still feels foreign is rejected, not from defiance, but from lack of familiarity. This is why repetition is not mechanical, it is transformative. The more often you enter the state of the wish fulfilled, especially before sleep, the more familiar it becomes. And when it becomes familiar, it becomes law. The subconscious cannot help but bring forth what it accepts as real. This is the truth behind miracles, answered prayers, sudden breakthroughs. They were never sudden. They were the result of an internal shift sustained over time, often during sleep. Now some will say, but I have tried this and nothing happened. Yet they did not persist. They fell asleep once or twice with a desire, but returned the next night to worry or doubt. The subconscious is faithful, but it responds to consistency. If you return again and again to the wish fulfilled with sincerity and quiet conviction, the outer world must yield, not because of magic, but because the law is eternal. You become what you are in consciousness, and you remain what you repeat. Falling asleep in the wish fulfilled is not a practice to be mastered overnight. It is a sacred discipline, a turning inward, a dying to the old, and a resurrection of the new. Each night is a death of the past and a birth of possibility. You are not waiting for something to happen. You are aligning with what already is in the eternal now. And by doing so, you pull it into view. Let no night pass where you do not claim your right to choose your state. Do not drift into unconsciousness as a victim of the day. Enter the night as a creator, clothed in the feeling of your ideal made real. And as you sleep, know this: the world is rearranging itself, not tomorrow, not someday, but now, to match the one you dared to become in silence. Because when you fall asleep in the wish fulfilled, you have spoken the greatest command, not with words, but with being. And being is the language the universe understands without question. The greatest creative force known to man is not found in the hand or in the word, it is found in imagination. It is not an idle plaything or a mental escape. Imagination is the power that forms the blueprint of reality. It is the unseen workshop in which all visible things are fashioned. And when you come to understand this, not merely as an idea, but as a living law, you begin to revere your imagination, not as fantasy, but as truth. Especially when used in the moments before sleep, it becomes the divine sculptor of destiny. To manifest while asleep, you must become conscious of what you are imagining as you drift into the depths of rest. This is the moment where the veil between the outer and inner worlds becomes thinnest. The senses grow quiet. The outer facts loosen their grip. the mind enters a fluid state, receptive and unguarded. In this condition, your imagination is no longer restrained by what is real or practical. It is free to move, to create, to enter entirely new states. And whatever it embraces in this drowsy, yielding state becomes the instruction for what must soon appear. You must never underestimate what you carry with you into sleep, for imagination during this sacred transition is not passive, it is generative. It sends forth a message, a signal, a decree that does not go unheard. You are not waiting for a higher power to decide your fate. You are instructing your subconscious, and the subconscious, being the womb of creation, will give birth to the thing imagined with clarity and feeling. This is why it is not enough to simply repeat affirmations during the day. Words alone do not create. It is the state of consciousness in which they are spoken that matters. But when you are on the brink of sleep, and your imagination is vivid and your body is still, the words you think are no longer idle, they are alive. The images you form are no longer make-believe, they are causative. In that stillness, you become both sower and seed, planter and garden, architect and form. To use imagination correctly in sleep, you must become as a child, trusting, unguarded, willing to enter the scene without resistance. See yourself as you would be if your desire were already fulfilled, not observing it as a spectator, but participating in it as a fact. If you desire healing, see yourself vibrant, moving with ease. If you desire companionship, imagine hearing the voice of your beloved speaking to you or feel their presence beside you. If it is success, imagine walking into the space you wish to own or holding the very thing that symbolizes achievement to you. Let it become so real in feeling that you forget for a moment the current condition of the outer world. It does not matter that you fall asleep before completing the scene. If the feeling has been impressed, if the assumption has become emotionally real, the seed is planted. You will awaken with no visible change, perhaps, but beneath the surface life has begun to move. Imagination does not wait for logic. It works in silence. It arranges people, opportunities, and events through ways you cannot predict, and this movement is triggered by the imaginal act, accepted in the depth of sleep. So let the act be short but potent. You do not need long and elaborate stories. A simple moment that implies the fulfillment is enough. A handshake, a smile, a sentence spoken with conviction, a single gesture. These are small things in the world of action, but they are great in the world of imagination. Because in imagination, everything is symbolic. A touch can carry the weight of 1,000 facts. A word can encompass an entire future. The key is to lose yourself in the scene, not to analyze it, not to watch it unfold like a play, but to become one with it, to move within it naturally, to feel its rhythm as if it were already your life. When that feeling arises, and it will if you persist, it will flood the body with sensation. It will warm the heart, quicken the breath, perhaps bring a smile or a tear. That is the moment of creation. That is the vibration the subconscious receives, not as a question, but as an answer, not as a wish, but as a truth. Imagination is the place where the inner world and outer world shake hands. To manifest while asleep is not to command reality, but to enter into agreement with it. You agree with the unseen, and the seen is compelled to follow. This is not arrogance, it is alignment. You are not creating a world from scratch. You are selecting from an infinite sea of possibilities, the one that matches your state. And the state you assume in imagination becomes your compass. So take your imagination seriously, especially as you prepare for sleep. Do not allow the final moments of consciousness to be wasted on idle worries or memories of the day. Use them wisely. Enter the scene boldly. Become the man, the woman, the soul who already is. And then let sleep carry you deeper into that identity, knowing that when you awaken, the world will begin to reflect the truth you dared to imagine. There exists a place between what you call the seen and the unseen, a place not marked on any map, not found with the senses, but one you cross every night. This place is the bridge, the sleep state, the bridge between the conscious and the subconscious, the visible and the invisible, the desire and the fulfillment. It is not metaphorical, not symbolic alone, but real in the highest sense. And if you learn to walk this bridge with awareness, with intention, you will find that what was once delayed begins to unfold, not by chance, but by inner law. Each day you spend your waking hours moving in a world of appearances. You engage with people, with responsibilities, with the facts of your outer life. But the cause of these facts lies not in the actions you take during the day, it lies in the assumptions you carry across the bridge each night. The state in which you enter sleep is more powerful than the dozen things you say while awake. For when you sleep, you do not cease creating. You enter the workshop of the deeper mind. And it is this deeper mind that builds the stage upon which your life is played. The sleep state is a sacred passage. It is not escape, it is the great return to source, to potential, to truth. And the final thoughts you hold, the final emotions you feel, become the materials carried across this bridge. What you imagine, what you accept as true in this twilight of awareness, goes down into the fertile field of your subconscious. And just as a seed left in the ground produces fruit of its kind, so too does every imaginal act planted before sleep bear fruit in your waking world. But most pass across this bridge unconsciously. They do not guard their thoughts, do not choose their assumptions. They review the day with disappointment, dwell on problems, or simply drift into sleep with random impressions. And by doing so, they reinforce what they wish to escape. They plant the same seed again and again, and wonder why no new harvest comes. They cross the bridge as the same man, the same woman, night after night, and wake to find the world unchanged. But the one who understands the bridge knows that the real work is done not in effort, but in alignment. You do not have to force anything to happen. You do not have to convince yourself with words. You only need to choose the state in which you sleep, and that state will become the path beneath your feet. If you fall asleep in fear, fear guides your steps. If you fall asleep in fulfillment, fulfillment becomes your compass. The sleep state is neutral. It carries only what you place upon it. Like a boat crossing a river, it does not ask questions, it only delivers. So the only real question is, what are you placing upon the bridge? Do not be casual with this. Do not treat sleep as the end of the day. Treat it as the beginning of creation. As you lay down, become deliberate. Ask yourself, what is the state I desire to enter? Do not answer with words. Answer with feeling. Embody the mood of the one who has already arrived. Let your mind drift, not in reaction to the day, but in devotion to your vision. Let the bridge carry a new man into sleep, for it is not enough to wish, you must become. And becoming begins in the imaginal act. To walk this bridge in power, you must abandon facts for truth. The facts may say you are alone, lacking, limited, but truth says you are whole, chosen, infinite. The facts change, the truth remains. And the truth is what you must carry into sleep. Even if the outer world denies it, even if logic contradicts it, even if nothing yet reflects it, it does not matter. Because the bridge does not deliver what the world believes, it delivers what you assume. This is the narrow gate spoken of across time. Few enter it because it requires the abandonment of evidence. It requires the acceptance of the unseen as real. It requires that you walk as if the thing desired were already yours. And sleep is the perfect entrance to this gate. It asks nothing of your body. It requires no performance, no demonstration, no witness, only faith in feeling, only quiet conviction, only the willingness to carry the new state without demand or resistance. There is no need to strive. The bridge is already built. It stands between each day and each night, waiting for the one who will walk it with eyes closed but vision alive, who will not collapse into sleep with regret, but rise into sleep with imagination, who will not take yesterday with them, but carry tomorrow as already done. This is the true traveler, the one who creates worlds in stillness, who moves mountains without moving muscle, the one who knows that the real journey is inward, and the real bridge is walked not with steps, but with states. So walk this bridge tonight. Choose the state that aligns with your deepest desire. Feel it, dwell in it, saturate yourself with it until it becomes natural. And then let sleep take you. Do not force it, do not question it, just carry the feeling across. For the sleep state is not unconscious, it is conscious in a different dimension. And what you impress there is destined to express here. The bridge does not fail, the law does not falter. What you walk into in imagination, you walk into in life. To visualize is to plant the seed. To sleep in the state of the wish fulfilled is to water that seed. This truth, though simple, carries within it the entire formula for the transformation of life. For every change begins within, as a vision accepted by the mind, and is then sustained through emotional nourishment. That nourishment comes most powerfully in the sleep state, where the soil of the subconscious is most receptive and untouched by the reasoning limitations of the outer world. When you visualize, you choose the kind of seed you wish to grow. It may be a vision of wealth, of reconciliation, of healing, or of freedom. But until you plant that vision in the depth of feeling, it remains nothing more than a passing thought. It is only when the vision is clothed with emotion, when it is assumed as real, that the seed drops into the fertile bed of the subconscious mind. Yet, even planting is not enough. A seed without water dies. And it is in the silence and stillness of sleep that the watering takes place. Not by effort, not by repetition of words, but by surrender to the assumed state. The sleep state is not a place of passivity. It is where all things are nourished and multiplied. The world you see with your eyes is born out of the activity that takes place while your eyes are closed. You may spend all day rehearsing affirmations and imagining outcomes, but if you fall asleep contradicting that vision, you have poured poison on the roots. The subconscious does not respond to what you say. It responds to what you feel to be true, and sleep, more than any other moment in your daily life, reveals your truth. This is why the feeling carried into sleep is sacred. It is the emotional residue that lingers beyond thought. When you go to bed, you must be vigilant with what you carry with you into that realm. If you fall asleep rehearsing the wish fulfilled not with effort, but with calm knowing, you are bathing the planted seed in the living water of belief. That belief does not need to be loud. It need not be dramatic. It need only feel natural. And when the feeling becomes natural, the plant begins to grow. Visualizing without watering is like planning a harvest but refusing to tend the soil. Many make this mistake. They treat imagination as an exercise, something they do once and then forget. They see no change and conclude that the method has failed. But the method never fails. Only the gardener forgets to return. The act of sleeping in the state is not optional. It is essential. For the subconscious mind, unlike the conscious mind, does not operate in bursts of enthusiasm. It operates by rhythm, by consistency, by the steady pulse of what is impressed over and over again. You do not rush the growth of a seed by digging it up, nor do you question the laws of the earth when the sprout has not yet emerged. You know that if the conditions are right, the plant will come. So too with the vision. If it has been planted in faith and watered in feeling, it must grow. The conditions are fulfilled, the law is set in motion, and what you cannot yet see is already becoming. Let the act of falling asleep become a sacred ceremony, not a collapse at the end of exhaustion, but a conscious crossing into the realm where your assumption becomes your instruction. Take your vision with you, not as a desire, but as a possession. Rest in it, sleep in it, breathe it in as if it were already your world. Do not beg, do not ask. Simply feel that it is. And in that quiet space between awareness and dreams, you have watered the vision. There may be no sign in the morning. The world may appear the same, but something is different. The roots are deeper, the unseen has shifted, and as you continue this practice, not for a night or two, but as a way of being, you will find the outer world rearranging itself without your effort. People will play their roles. Circumstances will adjust. Time will fold. Because what you once imagined has now taken root. And what was once only inward must become outward. Each night is a divine appointment, a meeting with the deeper self, a return to the center of creation. The act of visualization is your conscious selection. The act of sleeping in the feeling is your submission to its reality. And these two together form the path of all manifestation. To see it in the mind and then to rest in the feeling of it in the heart. Thought is the spark, feeling is the flame. Sleep carries the warmth of that flame into the darkness where it becomes light. So return to your vision tonight, not with strain, not with anxiety, but with quiet confidence. Plant it in faith, water it in sleep, and know that what you have nourished in the silence will shout in your world, not because you fought for it, but because you surrendered to its reality. This is the mystery, this is the law, and it is fulfilled, not by force, but by the one who dares to rest, as if it were already done. You have been given the map, not to a place, but to a state that creates, a state that transforms, a state that lives beyond the limits of sight and sound, and reaches into the very structure of reality. Every night, you hold the key. You enter the sacred gate, and what you carry with you into that gate becomes the life you wake into. Do not underestimate the quiet moment before sleep. It is more powerful than the noise of your day. It is the birthplace of change. Whether you desire health, love, peace, freedom, or abundance, the secret is not found in the struggle of waking hours. It is found in the stillness of sleep. When you imagine before sleep, you plant. When you feel the wish fulfilled, you water. When you cross the bridge in conviction, the world responds. You are not waiting. You are becoming. Every night is a rehearsal of the world you wish to see. So sleep not as the person you were, but as the person you have decided to be. Let your last thoughts be the truth of your desire already realized. Let your final emotion be gratitude for the unseen becoming seen. And let the silence of sleep carry your command into creation. For what you feel as true in sleep, the world cannot help but echo in form. This is the law, this is the gift, this is the way.